Hello, and welcome back to Perfect 10, the pop culture podcast where we explore the media we love. I'm your host, Michael Cohen. So, what exactly is a Perfect 10? It has nothing to do with a review score. A Perfect 10 is a piece of media that resonates with us, and hopefully you too. It's about the pop culture that shapes us and why we love it. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Curtis, Dan, Brian, Mark, and Sherston, and to all of our Patreon supporters. Your contributions make this podcast possible. You can head to patreon.com/thunderquack to get early access to Perfect 10, exclusive podcasts, and more. Look, up in the sky. Is it a bird girl? A man in a flying chair? A bowl cut with a bad attitude? No, it's Superman 2025. And we're joined by the host and creator of the podcast Super House of L, Derek Russell, to break down why this might just be the best Superman movie of all time. Derek, welcome to a Thunderquack podcast. We're pretty sure for the first time. We're pretty sure.
We have extensively gone through the Fortress crystals, and
Yeah.
I feel guilty that this hasn't happened before now. So
Guilty. Guilty.
guilty, yes, guilty.
Yeah. You and I have known each other for as long as I have known what a podcast is. Essentially, I mean,
Yeah,
I early in the days of what was Starkville House of L, and is now Super House of L. Right? I when you guys were originally covering Smallville. Yeah, I mean, like I would write in emails, and this was back in the days before I had my own podcast.
Hmm.
And you guys were literally the first podcast I ever downloaded. So it was like I downloaded that, and then I downloaded a Star Wars podcast that we won't name, because those creators are not really people we want to talk about,
All right.
give any press to, but yeah, it was the biggest one at the time. I downloaded those two podcasts, and those were my first two podcasts. And yeah, and then it just kind of built from there. And then eventually, I was like, hey, I can do this too. So for anybody who's like, enough with the podcast already, Mike. Derek is who you have to blame.
No,
It's
they're all like, "Wow, he did it way better. He did a much better job at it." So
no,
good on you, sir.
I don't think that that's necessarily the case. But we've never done this before.
I
And
know,
certainly
I know.
never recorded a conversation about Superman.
Never just the two of us that we can find either.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
about anything. So I'm excited to be doing it, and I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is it's silly that it has taken us this long to do something like this, but I'm good. I'm happy about it because it's for this movie. Because this movie is I think worth us having an in-depth conversation
Sure.
about. Because I don't know. I'll just go ahead and say I'm over the moon with the result with this film. And obviously there's a lot sort of hinging on it with it being the launch of the DCU and all
Hmm.
of that, and coming off of the Snyderverse and everything that comes with, all of the baggage of that. And I don't know, I don't think that it could have been a better first step into this world than what we got. So I'm psyched to dig into it with you, and like get into the nitty gritty of why I think this is the best Superman movie.
I'm
And
excited to hear your thoughts on it because I feel like I've gotten myself in a bit of an echo chamber with my own thoughts about it. But having done a few episodes on it now for
mhm.
House of L, feel like I'm just repeating myself more often than not. So I'm looking forward to a different vein of conversation that hopefully will lead into some new direction for me, so I'm not boring your listeners as well as mine.
For sure. Yeah, no, I know that feeling so well, because when Star Wars stuff drops, and it's like I'll talk about it on Forced Perspectives, and then I'll end up saying something on Rebel Cells, and then Joe and I will be talking on one of the other podcasts, and we'll get into it again, and it's like, and or I'll have my like pre-rehearsed bits. My wife is the one who suffers the most because she has to hear it when I'm still working it out, right? Like when I'm still like, what am I trying to say here? And so she has to listen to the real ramble. And then she also listens to the podcast now, so it's like I don't know why she does that to herself, but she does. And she's got to listen to me make the same point that I've made 15 times already. And then if we see somebody and they ask me, you know, what did you think? And then I have to be like,
To go and do it again.
yeah, here we go. But yeah, so I know exactly how that feels. But before we get into the deep end with this one, I want to do what I always do, regardless of the subject matter, which is to give everybody the primer on exactly what it is that we're about to talk about. So,
Right.
what is Superman 2025? Superman 2025 is a feature film written and directed by James Gunn, starring David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Hoult, Edie Gathegi, Nathan Fillion, Isabella Merced, Maria Gabriela de Faria, Sarah Sampaio, and Skylar Gisondo. I had to put all of those people in it because I was like, this movie doesn't work without this ridiculous cast.
I
It's
it 100% agree, and I
yeah.
applaud you for using all their names and using them correctly.
Yeah, it's not it can't just be the top three. It's I could have kept going, but I had to cut it off somewhere. But here we go. Here's the rest of our little precursor here. Clark Kent is a seemingly mild-mannered reporter for the Daily Planet, but in truth, he is an alien from another world, the sole survivor of the planet Krypton. Gifted with incredible abilities under Earth's yellow sun and raised by humble farmers in Kansas, he uses his powers to help those in need and protect those who cannot protect themselves. To defend them from villains like evil billionaire genius Lex Luthor and his henchmen. A fresh start for DC Comics on the big screen, Superman officially launches the DCU reimagining the Man of Tomorrow in a bright, colorful, hopeful tone full of Gunn's signature humor and heart. A film that dares to ask the question, what if kindness is the real punk rock? So slip some red underpants over those trousers and tie a bath towel around your neck because we are talking Superman 2025. I always have to like get the 2025 in there so that people know which Superman we're talking
Right.
about. But James Gunn has talked a lot about like because now Supergirl is just Supergirl. Like that movie's gonna just be Supergirl. They had the was it Woman of Tomorrow?
Woman of Tomorrow, and then
Yeah, it was.
dropped that from it.
Yeah, and they dropped it just like this one was Superman Legacy for a while, and then they got
Right.
rid of that to just make it Superman. I mean like I get the the logic behind it as he's explained of like the colon subtitle is a little bit tired. These characters don't need it.
Yeah.
Like yeah, absolutely not. But at the same time it makes it very difficult to have a conversation about it when you're like so we're talking about Superman 2025, not Superman 1976 or Superman the animated series or the Superman radio dramas or the Fleischer cartoons, I because all of this stuff is usually just referred to as Superman. uh,
I've found myself in recent weeks referring to it strictly as James Gunn's Superman.
that's a good way to do it because that's kind of
Yeah.
like the Suicide Squad thing, right? Of
Right.
like, yeah, because no one can ever keep it straight, right? Is it the Suicide Squad or is it just Suicide Squad? It's
Yeah.
like the one that James Gunn did, not the
Yeah.
crappy one.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I, as I have already said, I love this movie. Like this movie is more than just a film that I saw in a theater. There's core stuff in this movie that resonates with me as a Superman fan. And honestly, like no hyperbole, James Gunn made the Superman movie that I would make if I were a director. Like the tone, the costumes, the dialogue, the way that he swears one time. in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And it's really like it's in a very heated moment and a private moment, and that's the only time that he ever lets it pass his lips, which is so perfect. But even right down to his version of Metropolis, which is a thing that I've always kind of been like, no one's ever gonna do it. No one's ever gonna do it the way that it should be done, and the way that I would do it. And then lo and behold, like James Gunn actually represented the city of Metropolis in exactly the way that I would, and that what I want to see on screen. And it's and like the whole the whole team is there, right? Like
Yeah.
the robots, Crypto, the entire Daily Planet bullpen. Like even though, let's be honest, Troop kind of gets the short end of the stick, but
He does. Yeah.
he's just kind of there, and just mentioned in one line of dialogue. But that's, you know what, it's not fair because Beck Bennett's gonna steal all of those scenes every time he's got the opportunity. Um, Funniest line in the whole movie, I'll just say, is why don't I have a chair?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I It's so good. I laugh out loud every time. I saw the movie 3 times in the theater, and then I have watched it once at home, and wanted to watch it again today at home, but didn't get the opportunity. But how many times have you seen it?
Are we on the record, or is this a safe space? Is this a judgment free zone? Uh,
This is Perfect 10, and Perfect 10 is about being hardcore nerds about this
That's true,
specific topic,
unabashedly.
right?
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. So I went beyond the perfect 10. I've turned it up to 11. I've seen it 11 times in theaters. To be fair, some of those were like press screenings, and then
Yeah.
they were like our screenings that we did that the House of L did in Cleveland
Yeah.
for opening weekends, and then several on my own since then. But yeah, so 11 in total. I have not watched. I have not gotten to watch it at home
Which
yet.
which of your 11 screenings was the best one?
Oh God.
Tough question. It's a tough question.
Nobody's asked me that.
Yeah.
I mean, easy answer would be the premiere,
Mhm.
I think,
Mhm.
because I mean, if you're gonna watch the movie, who better the people to watch it with than the people who are in the movie sitting around you?
Yeah.
Um, but there was something really special about getting to see it in Cleveland with the guys who, and you've been around us as well. You're
Mhm.
part of this crew too. Is the people who all met because of this podcast that traveled across the country and got to hang out and see it together
Yeah.
in Cleveland, watch a Superman movie together for this character that we all love and that brought us all together. So I'm split down the middle there on which one was more impactful. But yeah, those first four or so viewings were really, uh, as I've said on our show, emotionally manipulative.
Mhm.
Because even even if I didn't like it, I still would have been emotional just from the sheer fact of the experience of it all. Thankfully, I did love it, so
Yeah.
I had that going for me. So yeah, easy answer would be the first time, would be the LA premiere. Getting to go to that was an experience that I did not deserve at all, and am so appreciative. I'll remember that night for the rest of my life. But that was an incredible experience.
I'll interject and say I appreciate you being humble about it. but I'll also say, having, been an observer of the whole thing since very early on, not the very beginning, but very early on in the early days of Shoe with Smallville. I mean, you've put in the hours, man. You put in the work. You deserved it.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't. I had imposter syndrome the entire. As soon as my feet
Yeah.
hit that carpet, I was like, not. This feels wrong on so many levels.
Oh,
But
for sure.
I
Yeah.
hit it well, and I went inside.
No, it's awesome. It's so awesome that you got to be a part of that. And I am eternally jealous, obviously, but also get to live vicariously through all of your social media posts. So yeah, I mean, it in reality, when you get to go do stuff like that, it always feels to me, it's like, oh, this is a win for all of us, right? Like I get to ride, over the shoulder and observe, through your social media, and messaging with you and whatever, and being
Yeah,
like,
texting.
oh, that's awesome.
You're
Yeah.
not the first person to have said that either, and I don't know if that makes me feel joy in my heart or also like increases the imposter syndrome to a degree. But I'll take it either way because one thing I do love, because early on when those kind of things would happen, I feel like I'm bragging if I text everybody, if like I
Mm,
send a picture or something like that. And everybody's like, no, we want to live vicariously, like,
yeah, yeah.
let's all be a part of this in the best way we can. So I try to make that happen whenever some out of the world experience comes along that I somehow have found myself falling backward into.
No, for sure. And like I say, I from my perspective, you absolutely earned it, because this sounds so corny to say, but you guys were quite literally pioneers in this whole podcast thing, doing an after show before the term after show existed, right? Like doing that whole thing, and having so many other podcasts that have really just sort of aped what Shu was doing in those early days. Yeah, you guys blazed the trail. And so, like, come on, it's earned, it's earned for sure.
Thank you. I
um
appreciate that.
yeah.
If anybody says otherwise, I'll send them to you.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, I'll set them straight. I Okay, before we talk specifics on this movie, I do want to actually just like roll it back, because, like me, Superman is early in your life, right? Like, this
Sure.
is
Yeah.
this is a lifelong thing. So, um this is a question that I ask a lot on Perfect 10, but I think for this one, it's like, this is going to be a hard one to answer. It is for me, at least, because it's a thing where it's like, well, I don't have I there's no awakening moment for Superman. He's just always been there. So, what's your first memory of Superman, and like, sort of that progression of falling in love with the character that would
He
eventually bring you to this point?
he is sitting right here next to me on the desk. It is a 1987, 88. I got to turn it upside down to look. Oh, I'm old, Michael. My eyes don't work as well as they used to. 88. It is a 1988 Burger King Super Friends cup holder. And so what these were was Superman, Batman, Darkseid, and Wonder Woman. And they're I mean, they look like 3/4 inch action figures, but their arms are outstretched and they've got little slots in their fists that a cup would lock into. So they themselves are the cup holders. And you could drink from the cup, or you could detach the cup and they become action figures. Uh, I don't know if that was my first Superman thing ever. I'm sure I had pajama. I know I had pajamas. But and there's pictures of me in them. I don't have real memories of that. But I do remember playing with this toy non-stop, and
Hmm.
that led into Super Friends, and that led into the Reeve films, and then by that point, I was watching Nick at Night a whole lot, and the Reeves series, the '50s Adventures of Superman started airing
Hmm.
on there, and then it was just by that point the dam had burst, and then we're 10, 11, 12 years old, and Lois and Clark is airing, and
Yeah.
then get into Smallville and get into high school in Smallville, and so he has dark humor. I joke he was been there for me more than my father ever was. But he's just it's a character that I associate so much with because so much of my life is centered around it. So my earliest memory is hard to say because he's always been there.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's just a constant for me. But I do know whether it's from my mother telling me the story at a young age or not that action figure is my first real Superman thing that brought me hope, joy, and I played with it so much that eventually the emblem started to rub off on the chest. But I love having him on my desk as a reminder of uh, how all this started for me. What about you, though? What I don't know your Superman background, honestly.
Yeah, I talk a lot about I the Ninja Turtles being the like sort of the first thing for me. And I have like not just a specific memory, but specifically my first real memory is sitting on my dad's lap watching Ninja Turtles and eating a bowl of cereal. And
Nice.
I through the process of podcasting as therapy, which is what it is, I've sort of like realized that, oh, that's what this is all about. That's what everything that I'm surrounded by is, just me trying to get back to that moment, that first like real memory, that first happy memory. And it all kind of revolves around that. But I bring that up to say that like Superman somehow predates that. And and so do the Ghostbusters. Like they
Hmm.
like both of those things are things that I don't have the memory of forming the attachment. I just It was just
They were
there.
just there. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's just always been a thing. Um my earliest memories of Superman specifically are the Fleischer cartoons.
Yeah.
And so that's I think why my personal sort of like vision of Superman is very much that 1930s. It's very much the Art Deco. It's very much the like over the top campy, and like the very straightforward, like there's a bad guy and we're here to stop the bad guy.
Hmm.
And it really doesn't need to be much more than that. But same as you, there are pictures of me as a very small human being with Superman emblems. I remember there's one great picture of me at daycare with the Superman sweatshirt. Yeah, those perfect 1980s kids sweatshirts that had
Hmm.
that sort of like puffiness to them almost,
Oh
right?
yeah,
They
yeah.
were like very plush. And it was like a baseball jersey sort of cut, right? Like that raglan sort of cut, with blue sleeves and a white body to it, with this great circle image, like a circle with Superman in the middle of it, doing the standard arms on either side, chest puffed out emblem fully on display, and the cape waving in the background. And then around the circle, I think it says like Superman Man of Steel or something like that. And Yeah, like you can tell that I have that shirt on and I know it. Like I'm fully aware that like I am representing Superman by wearing this shirt. Very proud of myself. And that's just like that's one of those things, just like proof that I go to of like, see, this kid loved these things about Superman from day one. But the funny thing is that like Marvel and Disney, I think, kind of ate up a lot of the attention span in the late 90s, like in sort of that mid to late 90s. Gargoyles, Spider-Man, the X-Men, and then Power Rangers. And then by the time that I'm sort of moving a little bit out of that stuff, Star Wars takes over, right? And so once I hit 10 and Star Wars is my focus, I kind of forgot about everything else. Like granted, I still loved Spider-Man or the X-Men or Ninja Turtles or Ghostbusters, but there wasn't really anything happening with those properties either. So and that, when I was in that age, was exactly when like the special editions hit, and then the prequels. And
Right.
so it was like the height of sort of that resurgence of Star Wars. And I was the perfect age for all of it. For every single one of those new movies, I was exactly where I needed to be, to not care about the things that were bad and to only care about the things that were awesome. So I rode that wave for a while. But at the same time that, we're kind of in the middle of the prequels, this TV show comes on the air, and I'm in Canada. I the At the time, it's not even the CW yet, right? It's UPN still, or
WB.
WB, yeah. And so we don't, unless you have a satellite that gets American, like the sort of those, the ABC, NBC, Fox,
Hmm.
CBS, we would get, right, like we would get whatever the Seattle affiliate was. um but the ones that were a little bit more out there, like the WB or like TBS, stuff like that, that were not quite specialty channels, but like in that weird in between cable space, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have them. So Smallville starts airing, and when it starts airing, it's not in a regular time slot where I was. It aired, I think, on Global TV, which
Yeah.
previously had
Global.
been, yeah, it had been BC TV, and this is like right around the time that they were making the transition over to Global. And what they would do is like the first season aired, and they didn't air it in any of their prime time slots because Global would have most of the like standard TV shows, right? Like they'd
Sure.
they'd be taking over the ABC or NBC sort of feed to show whatever was on at the time, right? But then in the summer they would do like blocks of Smallville, and so they like throughout the summer after the first season aired, they basically like randomly, not even consistently, but randomly, like on a Friday night, here's 3 episodes of Smallville.
Right.
And so I came into it, like, didn't see the premiere, right? Like came in randomly in these episodes. So if you come into Smallville without context, and without anybody like having told you that there's a Superman TV show on, right? Um, I and you missed the series premiere where it's very plainly spelled out that Clark Kent is Clark Kent and this is Superman, because he's got the S on the chest and the and he's hung up as the Scarecrow and whatever. If you missed that and you didn't see the opening of the episode, you just came in like 15 minutes into it, you're watching this thing going like, did they just call him Clark?
Yeah.
He's got he's got super speed. Is this what's ha-
Is that
is this
is
a
that
super
kryptonite? Yeah.
is this a Superman show? Am I
Yeah.
watching a Superman show? And I didn't have the internet at home. And it was summer vacation, so I couldn't go to school and use the internet at school. And I wasn't about to go to the library. It was the early 2000s, right? Like, yuck, gross. Um, so I did go to the video store on a regular basis, though. So for the Gen Zs and the potential Gen Alphas that might pick this up at some point in the future, a video store was this place where we would go, and we would get these blocks of plastic with a weird tape inside them called video cassettes, and we would put them into a machine that would play them, and they would have movies and TV shows on them. And you would go and you would give them a small amount of money to borrow that thing for a determined amount of time. And
It sounds so archaic now.
it's ridiculous, right? Why wouldn't you just stream it? As I said, I did not have the internet at home, and also it took 45 minutes to download the first 30 seconds of the Phantom Menace trailer back then.
Oh my
So
gosh.
like, get off my case.
Real player.
Yeah, exactly. Quick time.
Mhm.
I but I'm at the video store, and I'm looking through stuff, and I can remember I'm like with my dad, and we're looking for stuff to rent, and I see Smallville, and I see Tom Welling and his very glistening chest with the red S on it. I on the cassette cover, and I pick it up, and I'm like, Dad, I'm pretty sure that this is a Superman thing. It's because it's weird because it's called Smallville, and like that's where Superman's from, and I'm pretty sure I've seen a couple episodes of this, and I think it's a Superman show. And I turn it sideways, and on the side of the cassette is the Superman logo,
Yeah.
and I was like, it is a Superman show. And it was like I had been hit over the head like so many characters in Smallville, and had forgotten that Superman existed for a really long time. And then upon seeing that emblem on the side of that cassette tape that summer, it unlocked it again. It was like Star Wars all of a sudden was like, oh yeah, Star Wars, whatever. And I would like that whole summer I was obsessed with it. And so I was like looking through here's another archaic thing, the TV guide to
Yeah.
find out when are these episodes airing. Are they? And I rented that cassette. Obviously, it's the first two episodes.
Yeah, I got it
And
right over here.
yeah, I have a copy of it as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I watched it like 3 times before I returned it. And then made sure that I had a cassette set to record for every episode that was going to air for the rest of the summer, so that I wouldn't miss any of them. And yeah, and Smallville is what brought me sort of back into the fray. And I mean, like, Justice League had been on, and the Superman the animated series, and obviously, going back to Lois and Clark, and all of that stuff. And I had enjoyed all of that stuff when it was on, but Smallville was the thing that like reignited it for me. And then that leads into Superman Returns, and I it just kind of snowballed from there.
Sure.
Like, eventually I found your guys' podcast, and that made me an even bigger nerd about it, because here are these other people on the internet talking about this at the level that I would like to be talking about it with my friends, but nobody cares about Superman enough. Um, and we're in that era where Kill Bill Volume 2 comes out, and Tarantino, you know delivers that completely incorrect
Yeah.
dissertation on who Superman is as a character. And so then that's all anybody wants to talk about with Superman for 5 to 10 years, depending on the person. Because if Tarantino wrote it into a movie, and then it was a monologue, then now it's gospel. So that's what Superman is, and it's like, oh my god, you guys don't understand this character at all.
Nope.
Um and honestly, like, I blame Kill Bill Volume 2 for Man of Steel and the aftermath of that. Man of Steel is a movie that I actually quite like, but the rest of the that situation is I think it's all born out of the idea that he's the alien first, and not what Smallville showed us, what Smallville
Right.
did such a great job with, which was like, no, he is Clark Kent from Smallville, the farm boy, before anything else, before he's Kal-El, last son of Krypton, or Superman, or Clark Kent, reporter at the Daily Planet. He's that earnest, genuine, kind-hearted kid from Smallville, Kansas, right? Like, that's who that character is. And this movie like nails it. It captures it so perfectly. Without I think without beating you over the head with it. I think that some people feel a little bit beaten over the head by it, but I think it's actually, like, it's very skillfully um laid out, and very realistically, in the midst of the rest of the movie, which is not realistic at all, right? Like everything else is so um almost Silver Age,
Hmm.
with the preposterous nature of anti-proton rivers, and dimensional rifts and stuff like that. But that heart of it is so grounded, right down to Ma and Pa being real people for a
Yeah.
change. Not, I mean, and we love them, John Schneider and Annette O'Toole, but it's like, look at the two of them. These are some very pretty people.
Yeah.
They don't have an average experience at all. How
No.
could they? Even in a small town, it's like, oh, there goes the most handsome man you've ever seen. Just, he's just in jeans and a flannel, and you're just like, boy, oh boy, look at that hair, right? I I know, and you've spent time with the actual man, um but yeah, it's like casting actors that look like legit salt of the earth Kansas farmers,
Yeah.
and then writing them as imperfect perfect parents,
Yeah.
just is, to me, the maybe that's the real punk rock, and all of that stuff. None of that works if you don't have that as your foundation. And so I just look at it, and like, James Gunn just totally nailed it, right? um So that's sort of like, that's at the core of my experience with Superman. And then the other aspect of it, like I said, that Fleischer stuff of like the Art Deco Metropolis. And I what's this one about? Oh, there are flying machines.
Right.
They're stealing gold, and Superman's just gotta he's just gotta go back to where they're coming from and stop them, and that's it. And like, the plot of this movie is not complicated.
No.
it's it definitely has its nuance to it, but it's very straightforward. In terms of like a Lex Luthor plan, there's certainly no using crystals to grow islands off of the coast of
Nope.
Metropolis that somehow are worth money.
But at the end of the day, it's still land, even in this movie.
This is true. This is true. It is still land. It is still a real estate Ponzi scheme. So it's true to the character for sure, but he goes through more outlandish means in order to accomplish it.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is that it's really just about, trying to take down
Oh
Superman.
yeah, yeah. Of course. I mean, we find out that yes, it was
Yeah,
about land, but also that was just kind of an extra bonus of getting
yeah,
to kill you,
yeah.
Superman. So
I don't know. I've kind of given my thing of what I think is at the core of this movie and why it works for me so well, and that being the Clark aspect of it. And we can talk more about that as well. But I'm just curious for you, like, what, because as you say, you also love the movie. It works for you. What is it about this iteration of Superman that is hitting for you?
what I love about this character is that in nearly 9 decades, and yeah, you could argue left and right on overlap on some things, but more often than not, there are different versions of this character because of the world that we drop this character in. So
Mm-hmm.
Smallville is, it's very post, even though the first few episodes were filmed before 9/11, it's very, much a post 9/11 world kind of story with that Superman. Reeve is, very much that late 70s in that, tales of the city kind of vibe. And
Mm-hmm.
um this this works uh, uh, against the backdrop of everything that hasn't worked for us over the last however many years. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
just talking about uh, Superman incarnations that have fallen through the cracks and not panned out. Um, we've obviously had a rough go of things on a worldwide basis, from a pandemic to anything. I'm not going to get into everything else, obviously, but
Yeah.
uh, getting to the I like Man of Steel. I did not like Dawn of Justice. As I've said before, my problem with Dawn of Justice is all of us saw Man of Steel and Bruce Wayne didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're constantly like the cliche people in the audience going, "Don't go in there," screaming at the screen the whole time because we've experienced this already and you haven't. We're having to sit here through 3 hours of you having to figure it out for yourself. Um, But for so much of Man of Steel and that shield to have meant hope, there wasn't a whole
Mm-hmm.
lot of that in that world, uh, because we had it. It was more often than not dour and serious and gritty, and yet again we're seeing um what what it would look like if superheroes were dropped into our world. What if if Superman was in our world, how would we treat him? Probably more often than not, or at least a large number of us would. And it's while I do enjoy that film, it's also kind of depressing
Mm-hmm.
in a way to me because I do love this character so much, and I don't want to say I gatekeep him, but I am very protective of him. And anytime a new incarnation comes to life, I'm always like, please do our boy justice, truth and justice. And so coming off the heels of 2013 and just watching that franchise or iteration of these franchises dwindle and fall apart because of what they got wrong,
Hmm.
more often than not. I'm not saying they got everything wrong. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying at all. Again, I'm looking at a Man of Steel poster here in my studio right now. I
I
enjoy the film.
Yeah, the Mondo poster sits above me at my desk every day,
Exactly.
and I love it. It's an amazing poster, and it actually like it hits what I love about that movie.
Hmm.
Like that poster just nails the aspects of that film that I
Which
enjoyed so
one is
much.
this? The wheel wagon turned over, or the other, or the
No, it's the
what
like streaks of
with him in space?
yeah,
And
with him
yeah,
in
yeah,
space. Yeah.
I got that one over here too. Um, so again, it's very much that through the lens of our world, seeing these characters.
Hmm.
And what I love about this one is literally from the jump, we're dropped into their world.
Yeah.
Like there's world building that has to be done from a standpoint of, oh, we've never seen these things before, and this is just a giant kaiju is a typical Tuesday in Metropolis. You know,
Yep.
it's that kind of stuff. Again, it's Silver Age evocative. It's There's some sci-fi-ness to it. There's a big, beautiful, weirdly shaped geode of a Fortress of Solitude that rotates and has a computer console inside of it, but it's operated by crystals instead of just having a crystallic,
Yeah.
desktop. So it's all these little things that became almost escapism for me. I very much found myself escaping into this movie, into this world, and into these characters, and wanted to spend more time in it because it's nice to turn off your brain for a little while and not have to think about real life and think about, all the things that aren't great,
Hmm.
and look at the things through this window that do make you happy. And there's so many things about this movie that just made me happy. Um and that's true for most all versions of this character. I loved Superman and Lois. I wish that had gotten more seasons. I feel like, it didn't get
Hmm.
to tell all the stories it needed to do. Of course, Smallville is I eat, sleep, and breathe Smallville because it made such a huge impact on me in my life. But um this ended, and when this movie ended, it moves so quickly, and like I just felt like it had been 30 minutes, and I was like, and we're done. I
Yeah.
can't go back. We
Yeah.
can't. I want more. I want to stay here for a little while longer. So really, it was that kind of ushering us into, I mean, literally ushering in the DCU, but bringing us in behind the curtain of this new world of James Gunn's Gods and Monsters, whether or not he continues to use that chapter one title or not. But that's what I really appreciated more than anything about it is the um otherworldliness of it all.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I said this on another podcast recently. They this has always kind of been the problem in the modern era with Batman and Superman and DC as a whole in the way that it's been represented, especially on the big screen, and especially in light of the MCU, right? Because the MCU is very much, what if a person could build a suit of armor and stop war, right?
Hmm.
And what if we had a super soldier serum and we gave it to a guy in World War II? And what if, this kid could stick to walls and swing around on a web? um and that's true to the source material, because that's what Stan Lee and the rest of the Marvel bullpen, like, that's what they were going for, right? That's what Kirby and Ditko and all those guys wanted, was, this is the real world, but there are superheroes in it. and
Yeah.
and Marvel was actually a response to the golden age of comics, and Superman and Batman and Captain Marvel and all of those characters, that had sort of created this larger than life, uh, uh, false world that they existed in. And then Stan Lee was like, but what if it was our world, right? And then you get to the 2000s, and I think you do get to that post 9/11 era of film and TV and pop culture, and it is very much like put away childish things, right?
Hmm.
Everything has to be realistic. And the other component of it that I've been talking about a lot lately, because it's just kind of something like an epiphany that I had a little while ago, is that like this all happened when CG caught up, right? And all of a sudden we could show Wolverine's claws coming out of his hands realistically.
Right.
So now that we can do that from a visual standpoint, now that George Lucas has unlocked that potential, right? Now everything has to be explained. Everything has to be logical. Everything has to come from a grounded place. And we as a culture, I think, have lost our suspension of disbelief, right? It's a thing that we have when we're kids, but it kind of gets hammered out of us. um James Gunn never got rid of it because he started working on campy trauma movies, right? Like
Yeah.
that. So I think that pedigree coming from that part of film and being as much of a student of film as he is, and not just art films, not just blockbuster films, not just horror or action or sci-fi or anything, but of the whole deal. um I think that he has a this huge appreciation for film as a medium and an understanding of what it actually is, which I always go back to what George Lucas says, which is that like, guys, it's all magic anyways. Like it's all fake.
Right.
It's we project light through celluloid, and we do it at 24 frames a second, and it looks like a moving image. It looks like a thing happening in front of you, but it's really all just a trick. The whole thing is made up, the whole thing is fake. And once you realize that, then the sky is the limit, and you can tell whatever story that you want to tell. um and DC exists, it deserves to exist in a world that isn't bound by reality, right?
Hmm.
A world that where a boom tube can drop Darkseid in the middle of a battle, and we don't need to know how a boom tube works, right?
Mm-mm.
It's I said this on that other podcast as well. It's the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars, right? Marvel is Star Trek, DC is Star Wars. Star Wars is about the feeling. Like, we don't care how hyperspace works in Star Wars. We don't care how the lightsaber functions. That's not what it's about, right? And Star Trek really isn't either. It's about bigger stuff like humanity and political stuff
Right.
and all that. But it exists in a harder sci-fi, not fully like rock hard sci-fi, but definitely harder sci-fi than Star Wars. And Marvel also exists over there, right? Where we're gonna go like, oh, what makes him the Hulk? Well, gamma radiation. Gamma radiation's a real thing. Would it turn you into the Hulk? No, of course not. But we can jargon some science and make it sound like we know what we're talking about. Whereas in DC we've got, as I've said, Captain Marvel, right? Shazam, as he's now known, who is a kid that meets a wizard, and the wizard is like, "I'm gonna give you the powers of all of these names that spell out Shazam," and now you're basically just Superman. Go do Superman stuff.
Hmm.
And it's like, wait, where'd the wizard get the wizard powers from? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Relax. Relax. He's a wizard. That's the explanation. He's a
If
wizard.
if Mystery Science Theater taught us anything, repeat to yourself, it's just a show. I should
Yeah.
really just relax.
Yeah, relax. That it is my favorite MCU quote, which is Iron Man, Tony Stark saying, "Relax about it."
Yeah.
I took that on, and I yell it at people a lot, which I should be yelling it at myself more often. But yeah, the other thing that I say a lot these days is like, it's not that serious, guys. Like chill out. It's really not that serious. What was the movie about? What was the TV show about? What was this piece of media about? Not, were there plot holes? Are there inconsistencies? Did it logically work for you? But like, what was it about? How did it make you feel? Right? Um and for me, it's like this is one of the things that James Gunn does so well is like these movies have a vibe, they have a feeling, it's clear, um, and it's clear enough that most people come away with the understanding of that feeling. Whether they are able to verbalize it or not, it sort of varies. But in my conversations with people about the Guardians movies, about Suicide Squad, and now about this, I'll be talking to them and they'll start nitpicking some little things, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Like none of that
Yeah.
is the thing that you're saying right now of like, oh, so what they evacuated the whole city? How did they do that? And it's like, uh,
That stuff never bothers me.
it doesn't matter how they did it. What matters is that he actually showed that they did it,
Yeah.
right? Like
A
the
point was made.
the woman's got the turtle. The fireman is carrying the child. The woman
Yeah.
is the last car to get out of the city, and Superman saves her at the last second. All of that communicates to us we're good. Let's have a fight now.
Yeah.
Right? The city, the people of the city are safe, and now Superman has to stop Lex Luthor. And that's like it's about the feeling. It is about the emotion that it evokes when that building is collapsing and on that car, and we know he's going to show up. It's not a surprise that Superman gets there in the nick of time. We know he's going to, but we still hold our breath and then release the tension when we see him holding that building, and then it collapses and he comes out of the dust and you're like, let's go.
And they
Like
and they drive you absolutely crazy with the Williams theme.
yeah, exactly. That's another perfect example of Gunn knowing exactly what he's doing, which is like the score for Man of Steel is an incredible score, right? Like I love that music and I love it for Superman. I think it's such a great modern Superman score. But the fact that in that movie they are like, we're not using the Superman theme, right? In the same way that the Batman Begins stuff, all the Nolan Batman stuff is like, we're not using the Danny Elfman. We're not using it. It's a different thing. This is different. And it's like, okay, fine, whatever. But guys, those songs are those characters. Like they are. And Gunn you being like, no, we're gonna use it. We're gonna use it this time because like what there is no faster way to get me from Zero to Superman, right? Than to hear those notes
Oh yeah.
in that sequence, and however you want to tone it, right? Like, well, we're gonna do it in this really like almost like melancholic guitar riff. It's like, okay, cool. This is a different vibe from Christopher Reeve's Superman,
Right.
but it still has the same DNA, right? Like
Yeah.
it's still constructed with the same pieces. It's just like it's the it just has a couple of different spices to it, right? Like the flavor is a little tiny bit different, but it's all still there. So to me it's like that right now with everything that I'm consuming and getting excited about it, to me it is what does this evoke, right? Like how does this make me feel, and is that a feeling that I want to experience right now, or is it a feeling that I would like to stay away from? So
Yeah.
I watched the first 2 episodes of The Last of Us season 2, and I haven't gone back to finish it, and that's not a condemnation of the quality of The Last of Us season 2. I think it's very, very good, but I played that video game and it was a heart-wrenching like
Mhm.
gut punch of a story, and it gave me incredibly terrible anxiety. And so I know what's coming in the show, and I
Right.
know how well they executed it based on the first 2 episodes, and I am like, I'll get to it when I get to it. Right? It's not a feeling that I necessarily want to chase at the moment, but I saw Superman 3 times in the theaters. I'd see it more if I didn't have kids to pick up and ferry back and forth to things and responsibilities and all of that. But like alongside it, we've also got My Adventures with Superman, and
Yes.
we've got Peacemaker is coming, and although Peacemaker is a very different perspective into this universe, I at the end of the day, underneath it is the same stuff, right? I and there's a bunch of other great stuff right now that's like, oh, we can actually be excited about life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like let's be hopeful. I'll even point at the Thunderbolts, the recent MCU movie, or I don't know if we are supposed to call it New Avengers, but I it did the same thing for me that Superman did. Honestly, it really, by the end of that movie, I walked out of it and I was like, yeah, man, let's get some more superhero stuff going on. They saved the day. That was rad. That was super cool. And they saved the day by being friends. Like
Yeah.
friendship was the answer at the end of that movie.
The Care Bears won in the end.
Yeah, yeah. And so we can both Thunderbolts and Superman have shown us that, like, we actually can have our cake and eat it too with this. Like you can have like a very serious I like not necessarily intellectual but like thoughtful superhero story, but it can also be silly, and it can also make you feel hope, and it can also be chock full of fun and all of that stuff, and it can be a little bit ridiculous and absurd at times, and still circle back around to making you feel real things at the end of the day, and walk away from it going like, I I should be a better person.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what all superhero stuff should do. I that's my personal opinion, and when I say all, that's an absolute, and we shouldn't deal in absolutes, but
Hey.
I but like it's as a generality, right? Like I feel that superhero stories are the types of stories that we should be using to lift ourselves up and set examples, and sort of I point the moral compass in the right direction, and especially Superman. Like especially Superman. There's a handful of characters out there that I think should be that you know that benchmark that we're looking at, and it's like number one is a tie, and it's Superman and Spider-Man. Those guys should always be up at the top, going like, guys, this is who we should be. This is who we should be, just who we should be working to be every single day. And you're gonna fall short, but you know keep your head up, and keep looking towards those characters. um at least that's how I've chosen to live my life. So I James Gunn putting out a Superman movie that is very much like um full of daily affirmations.
Yeah.
Like kindness is the real punk rock, and stuff like that. I even just I'm gonna say my favorite scene in the whole movie, and then I'm gonna ask you your favorite scene. But it's so funny because favorite scenes are a thing that I come away from a movie and I go, what was my favorite moment in that whole movie? And it's a thing that, like, after the first viewing, I don't think you can really know,
Yeah.
but it's usually on the third viewing, when you're sitting there, you've seen this movie two times at least, like I and you're going into number three, and I you're you're watching the movie and you're like, oh, this is fun, this is fun, this is fun, but then you're coming up on a scene, and all of a sudden your brain clicks and then you start anticipating that moment. And there's a lot in this movie that fits that bill, but the thing that hit the hardest for me, and that I haven't been able to stop thinking about since I walked away from it on my third viewing, is honestly the end of the movie, like the last scene, not the like music pumping up and let's do the spin around, and like the very obvious moment of that, but it's the from when I number four is talking to him, and he's like, oh, like the scars, right, essentially. He's like, I think
Hmm.
it gives you character. um and then he's like, the conversation continues, like, I've always wanted a name. He's like, number four is a name,
Yeah.
which is just David Cornswet giving such a great, like, he's just such an earnest, heartfelt Superman. And then Alan Tudyk just nailing it. And I hate it. I hate so much that I have to give this to Alan Tudyk, because it's just like, why do you have to be in everything, and why do you always have to be so damn good in everything? But because I'm just bitter about it. Because it's just, how does somebody win so often?
At least
It's
it's somebody we
obnoxious.
like. If it
It
was
is,
somebody we
yes,
didn't
yeah, for
like that
sure,
kept winning, that's
yeah,
when we're
for
like, now
sure.
wait, why does he get to?
And he delivers this line so perfectly of like, so is Gary.
Yeah. So
And then
scary.
and then in the next moment, he's like, yeah, sure, Gary. And he there, it doesn't, we don't discuss it. It's
Mm-mm.
not a back and forth. It's a, he's Gary says one thing, Superman says another thing, and
Yeah.
then the next time that there's an opportunity for Superman to call him Gary, he does. And it makes me happy every time I think about it. Like, it makes me smile ear to ear. And I'm just like, that, it's so funny, because it is like, it's the punctuation on the movie, because it's this moment, it's this quiet funny moment right before we like crank it up to 11 and get the punk rock and all of that, to go into the credits. And it's just, it's so perfectly paced, and it's, you go through the whole movie, and we've had all of this fun. And even, like I pop when Supergirl shows up, and the whole thing with Crypto, and it's like, yeah, no boundaries and all of that stuff. Like, it's so good. And then it's just this very sort of silly, quiet, but very human moment between an alien and a robot. And it to me, it is, other than the Pa Kent scene, it is the most human moment in the entire movie. And it's two of the least human characters, as we've discussed
Yeah.
throughout the film, right? That have that moment. And also, like, in 2025, with so many of the conversations that we have going on, it's not pointed, but it does have meaning behind it, which is that, like, Gary expressed a preferred name, and
Yeah.
Superman respected it
Yeah.
without a second thought,
Yeah.
because it makes Gary happy. Gary's a robot. Who's himself is constantly reminding us, I have no feelings. And it's like,
Yes.
okay, you absolutely do, but that's fine. It's a very C3PO situation, but the facts on the page are that these are just robots that don't have feelings or emotions, but the reality is that obviously they do, and Superman cares about them regardless. And so he says he wants to be Gary. He's Gary. He's Gary. He's always been Gary. I just didn't know until now. Right. And that is, I don't know. It's just such a perfectly, like, couched moment that I hope I hope it worms its way into some people who just haven't been able to understand that message in the other ways that the culture has been trying to express it.
It's a
um,
great identifier too, because if somebody was arguing against that point, you could be like, okay, well, look, here's an example of how easy this is,
yeah,
or how
yeah,
easy it should be for people.
yeah.
The one thing I might have done, I sit there and Monday morning,
Hmm.
quarterback, and I'm like, yeah, I might have done this different. I might have done this different. Yeah, I probably would have had a shirt rip in the movie. I would have, those kinds of things. Um, I almost wish we had cut back to Gary, right after he said that, just for a reactionary
Mm,
look, or something, some recognition there
yeah,
on Gary's face, of what just transpired. I love that moment when he comes back to the fortress and he's cradling, literally, holding four, who's been laying there stabbing himself in the head.
yeah,
Um, and how his voice it breaks as he says, "I tried to protect Superman," and So I hope we see more of the Superman robots
Oh,
in the
absolutely.
future.
Yeah, yeah. It would be insane if we didn't, because Gary ends up being one of my favorite characters
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
movie full of
agreed.
incredible characters. Let me, on that note, I actually, before I ask you what your favorite scene is, because I've been watching this movie and watching that scene, and my read on that moment when Gary is like, I tried to protect Superman on the surface, because he's stabbing himself in the head with the screwdriver, like he's trying to fix himself, or
Hmm.
either that or trying to like disable himself so that they can't get any more information out of him.
Yeah.
Either way, like I feel like those are both very surface reads. I read it as Gary confessing that he garbled the second half of the message,
That he knew the second half of the message. I
because
I've
there,
s- I've seen that. Yeah.
yeah, because when you go back to the first scene in the movie, right, like to the beginning of the movie when they're playing it, there's a moment where, because there's a bunch of moments where Gary over explains things to the other
Hmm.
Superman robots, and that's one of them where he's like, the rest of the message was
And the
lost
rest
for
of the
sure.
message was lost.
Yeah, it
Anyway,
definitely
here's
doesn't
everything
exist.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, it's because it's cut off at such a perfect point. And to me, it's like, I look at that and I go like, that gives Gary this whole other dimension to his character, that when he says, I tried to protect Superman, he's saying, I'm sorry that I lied to you, I'm sorry that I
Yeah.
withheld this information, but I was trying to protect you. I wanted you to I wanted you to be the thing that they said that they wanted you to be, without all of that other baggage. Right. um
It's a question I would ask Gunn. It's not
yeah,
something I need.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate the layer to it, and I would love it if that was the case. It opens up myriad other questions for me. Like, and again, it's suspenders of disbelief, but you know, obviously Superman built these robots.
yeah.
Gunn said something on Threads or Instagram maybe a week or two ago talking about earlier versions of robots that he had built, and maybe in some drafts or some outlines that he had devised on where and when Clark built these things. So
Mhm.
to me it's an interesting concept. I mean, again, surface level very much. I love when his quote unquote brow narrows when
Mhm.
he sees that it's not Superman in the fortress, but it is Lex and Ultraman and Tessmacher and the engineer. And then he immediately goes into defense mode of quote unquote protecting Superman. So it's one of those things think could be read either way for anybody who wants to
Yeah.
appreciate it differently than somebody else might.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did. It's that that character has just he's really stuck with me. So I'm like watching all of his scenes and going like, what's going on with this robot?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hit it back to you now. What's your favorite moment from this movie?
Somewhere around like the 0 second timestamp and then the 2 hour 9 minute timestamp,
Yeah, yeah.
anywhere in there. Um, that is a Sophie's choice. I love everything about the opening sequence
Hmm.
from our again getting dropped into their world just as Superman is dropped into it. But I love that it is a pseudo origin story.
Hmm.
Um, not really, not even talking about really the quote unquote opening crawl, as people are referring to it as, but the 3 centuries ago and the 30 years ago, that whole thing, which I love. I'm not negating that, but um, I I love Superman's origin. It's one of my favorite things about Superman is the Krypton and the Kents finding him, and you know first day at the Daily Planet also happens to be the first appearance of Superman, but nobody's really ever connecting that Clark and Superman show up in Metropolis on the same day. Those kinds of hallmarks
Hmm.
are things that I really hone into when there's a new iteration. But I also get that we've seen it so many times. And we've seen it done so well so many times that you don't always want to go back to that well, and maybe not do it as good a service as other iterations have before. You've literally got 10 years of an origin story of a show we were talking about earlier, and it's hard to, upend what's worked so well on Smallville, or what is just a perfect, almost Grapes of Wrath Americana look through the lens of Donner and
Mhm.
Smallville in '78. Um, so while I love all those things, what I love here is it's kind of Gunn's origin story. Superman still comes crashing to Earth
Mhm.
in the opening seconds. He's weak and he's fragile from battle, so he is kind of vulnerable like a child, and uh and he is ushered then into the Fortress of Solitude, which we do see create, even though that happens every time that it comes out of the snow. It's like we're seeing it for the first time, so we do kind of see the creation of the Fortress of Solitude, and then he does emerge from the fortress fully restored as Superman. So it's kind of like this self-contained little
Yeah. Yeah.
origin take right there at the beginning. And obviously the music and everything from David hitting the ground going golly, and
Mhm.
just the all shucks of that he brings to the role.
Yeah. Got to get back to the fray.
Right.
It's so
Right
good.
up right up until that, you know, you could even argue that it kind of encompasses the entirety of Superman the movie, because it ends with him flying and smiling at us.
Mhm.
And then, that then we go into the Shield, and then obviously then on the Donner aesthetics of it all, with the Shield formation and the
Yeah.
typography of, the Superman logo and everything flying at us. I go back to those moments so frequently, almost to the point that I wish the engineer wasn't there for them. And that's a selfish want, not because I don't like that character or anything, but I also just wish it was sort of just this Superman
Yeah.
in these few opening moments that we're getting introduced to, without setting up plot so quickly. But again, it moves so fast. I'm a huge Lois guy. Lois Lane is one of the most wonderful characters I think ever created. She is the number two superhero in my book, because she's been around just as long as he has, since the
Mhm.
Action Comics one in 1938. More than a damsel in distress, she is a quintessential hero. We see that in this movie. She saves him twice. Superman doesn't even save Lois in this movie. She
Yeah.
saves him
Yeah.
twice. Um, so I love the interview scene, because while yes, they've been dating 3 months, and yes, that she knows that he is Superman, we still kind of get those, again, hallmarks of the "I spent the night with Superman" tale, the kind of thing, because
Yeah.
it is her first interview with him. And he does go through the whole, I come from a planet called Krypton, which is gone now, by the way, and does that whole spiel. So dropping a 10-minute uh romantic, and then ultimately heartbreaking scene uh there in the first 20 minutes of a comic book movie is was I thought ballsy.
Mhm.
But I loved it. I loved every second of it. So that, and then I'm giving you 14 answers other than the one you're actually looking for. Uh, the I keep going back to the scene in Clark's apartment.
Mhm.
The dialogue between Clark and Lois is so well done there. Dave and Rachel just absolutely nail it. The aesthetic of the fight in the background,
Yeah.
which it kind of breaks up the awkwardness of a couple who just had this huge fight and haven't seen each other since the huge fight. Um, I love that going on in the background, but it also makes for just this visually stunning backdrop
Mhm.
behind the two of them as they embrace, and that wonderful love theme, that John Murphy love theme, swells for the two of them. And obviously that is where maybe that's the real punk rock. That whole thing is taken on a life of itself, but that's the
Yeah.
scene that's born out of. It's either going to be that or the scenes in Smallville.
Mm.
Um, I'm a sucker for a Jonathan Clark talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any iteration, any time. Well, almost any iteration. Uh, almost any time. Um, but there was just something so comforting about this, and one thing I love too, and it's so close tied on David that you almost can't even see it. But when Martha comes out and says something's on the box, you need to come look at it. Which again, you mentioned this earlier, and I just want to say, you and I come from two very different worlds
Mhm.
in our lives. But I grew up in the South, and anybody who says that those weren't good depictions of the Kents
Yeah. Yeah.
or have never spent any time in the South. I could name you 40 people that I know that are just like that, like verbatim like that right now,
Yeah.
off the top of my head. And they were wonderful, wonderful versions of those characters. No, they were not John Schneider and Annette O'Toole, but they also didn't need to be.
Yeah.
They worked for, again, this world that we were dropped into. But I love when they do go in and watch the Moravian military are beginning their assault, and um then obviously that raising the flag theme, and dear God, I get emotional just thinking about it. As soon as that electric guitar riff hits and Hawk Girl sees the flag unfurl on TV,
Mhm.
I am swept up in it, from start there until, like, you know, gosh, I can be such a jerk sometimes in the end credit scene. Like everything
So
from there to
good.
there is
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I'm so emotionally invested in it. But Martha and Jonathan both have their hands on Clark's shoulders,
Mhm.
and they are draped almost like a cape, in a way, around him. And of course, then Martha's, I cleaned your boots, I'll go get them for you, and he immediately derobes and begins to again go back to the fray. Um, I love everything about that sequence. I love Jonathan trying to find, circling the drain of, I need to, I'm gonna broach what's going on with you, but first we're gonna talk about these burritos.
Yeah.
First we're gonna, as
Well,
a
the
as a
it,
dad awkwardly tries to get into touch with his son.
yeah, it's like the authenticity of your home from, you moved away, and I don't get to talk to you or see you nearly as much as I want to, and I can't say that. I can say, like, don't be a stranger, and that's as much as I can ever say, because otherwise she's gonna say I'm being a mush again. And
Yeah,
so, like, but like, we're sitting here and it's like, yeah, I, those burritos, so we went and we still just as good. And it's like that.
same as they ever were.
Okay, that is a conversation that I have had with parents, family members, relatives, like, a million times. You don't just, it's not a TV show where you sit down and you just launch right into the speech, right?
Yeah.
We don't, it's okay, we got more than 44
Yeah, we
minutes.
don't.
And
We're not on on
yeah,
WB time here. We
yeah, we
can
don't
we
have to
can
worry about the next act break.
we can let this moment simmer and watch Crypto play with the cows and watch
Yeah.
the lens flare of this Kansas sunrise. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love everything about it, right down to the farmhouse that they found outside of Atlanta, which again is correct. And
Yeah.
I know people were like, that doesn't look right, and it's like, well, no, it's not what we've shown before, but it is correct in its own right.
Yeah.
It looked like my great grandmother's house, which was on a farm, and it reminded me of that so well. So
It,
gun to my head, no pun intended. It's the your choices, your actions, that whole thing is my
mhm,
favorite.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's like a build up to it, and then when he gets there, the way that the tone shifts, um and the performance on that, because he's got that great moments of the, like, your choices, your actions, but where it's very, like, strong. And then he goes into the, I couldn't be more proud, and he breaks, right? Like the tears start coming, and that's exactly when Ma comes through and she's like, "Oh, you're doing it again. Like, knock
Yeah.
it off. Like,
Yeah.
you got to come watch something on the TV." Yeah, it just feels so real, and that's why I said before of like it in the midst of everything else that is so absurd and these characters that are so out there. It's like you've got Guy Gardner. Of all the Green Lanterns you could have, you've got Guy Gardner, and I absolutely 1000% support James Gunn in the not just the decision but the methodology of the decision, which was simply, if I put Guy Gardner in, I can make Nathan Fillion wear that haircut in a
Yeah.
film forever.
Yeah.
So that's the Green Lantern I'm using. And then I'll figure out the rest from there. Right. And it's like, yes, James Gunn, that's how you do that. That is how you make those decisions about which comic book characters show up in these movies. It doesn't actually need to be that important. It can just be, let's make fun of my friend. But in a movie that has that character in it, and that character being as absurd as he is, um, to have that moment to ground the whole thing of going like, now these are the parents that would make Superman. Right,
Yeah.
that would lead to a person, a man who could genuinely be Superman. And it's supported by Lois when she walks into his bedroom for the first time, looking around the
Oh,
trophies and she
that scene
sees,
doesn't get enough love.
yeah, she sees the mighty the mighty
Mighty Crab
crab
Joyce.
joys
Yeah.
poster, and the smile, like this very like sort of bittersweet smile that she gets of like, oh, I hurt his feelings, oh, I feel so bad, but like
Well,
also he's such a
and
dork. Like,
I mean, I really in watching that scene over and over again now, and watching her, how she reacts to the Kents taking care of him and
mhm,
everything. It's like she knows she loves him, but that's the moment where she's willing to admit to herself that she's in
yep,
love with him.
yep, yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it is in that moment when you see the thing that she made fun of, the Mighty Crabjoys are pop punk garbage, right? And then he's like, well, some people actually think that they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then she sees that the poster is on his wall and has been on his wall since then. And she's like, oh, you are like, none of this is an act. It never has been and it never will be. And even though this is still so lame, I love you more because of it. Right, like not in spite of, because of, right. And that's like, those are the moments where you look at a partner and you go like, yep, I really don't have a choice. Like, it's like, this isn't a decision that I made. This is just a reality that I have to face.
Yeah.
That I love this person more than anything in the world. And yeah, and that it is totally being there in that moment that she can then at the end of the movie go, by the way, I should have said this before, but yeah, it's it, I think the thing for me is that I can watch Man of Steel and I can appreciate a lot about Man of Steel, and I can watch the original Superman movies, all four of them, which I love all four of them for their own reasons. Let's even say five, because the Donner Cut is a very different movie
Hmm.
from Superman 2 as it was released. I can watch all of them and I can appreciate so much about them, and I love so much about them. Superman 4, prior to this movie, Superman 4 was my favorite. I fight with people all the time about it, and I don't care. It's the one that made an impression on me the most. And fighting Nuclear Man, throwing those missiles into the sun, all of that stuff worked for me when I was 6 years old, and I've carried that with me my entire life. But all of those movies kind of had an artifice to them, um and and sort of don't necessarily stand up to scrutiny, to varying degrees depending on which one you're talking about. But with this movie, one of the things that I walked away from it going like, the way that James Gunn interweaves the story elements, and on multiple viewings you're like, oh man, he laid that groundwork in act 1. and it doesn't pay off until act 3, right? And
Yeah.
like all of these sorts of things, it 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 just it's awesome to have a Superman movie that hits all the notes I want it to hit, looks the way I want it to look, has the right actors in the right roles, and but then on top of all of that stuff, which is all, tends to be the more surface stuff, it is actually a well crafted story underneath it, that like instead of watching it over and over and going like, okay, but that doesn't really make sense what that does. The every time that I've watched the movie, and then every time that I've like thought about the moments that I like, I start going like, it is incredible how this thing resonates with this thing over here, and like these moments call back to each other, and it buttons up so nicely. It's still, at the end of the day, I finish it and I'm like, so when are we getting another one? Is there
Mm-hmm.
another? Are we?
Mm-hmm.
And I know Supergirl's coming, but like, when do we get him back? Is he going to be in Supergirl? Because I really just need this Superman to remind me that everything's going to be okay. On a regular basis. Like, I need this Superman to be showing up all of the time in everything, even in non DCU movies, to just be like, it's okay, you got it. Everything's gonna be all right. We're gonna make it through this these trials and tribulations as well. Um, I don't know.
I do have to ask.
Yeah.
Do you think you loved this so much because it kind of is a pseudo Superman for the Quest for Peace? Because the more I watch it, I was like, all right, Nuclear Man. All right. Even down to the Hammer
Mm-hmm.
Barabia's insignia on his suit, and then, cloning with the hair. And there's just
Yep.
the inherent
Yep. Oh,
goodness and kindness speech at the end. And
when Lex goes, he's got the line of like, you have no idea how hard it was combing through battles to find a hair to clone you, whatever he says, right? And like the first viewing, i I popped like audibly, like I was like, huh.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
and no, like nobody else in the theater reacted to that moment, because I was like, and it was a moment of like self-realization of like that, like I heard it and I was instantly like, he's a clone of Superman, he's cloned from a single hair, and it's like, this is a Superman 4 reference that nobody else in this theater cares to even know exists.
yeah.
I and yeah, yes, there are things like that in this movie where I'm like, I say the sentence of like, it's really nice that James Gunn made a Superman movie for me. Like, I'm glad that everybody else is enjoying it, but it was really nice of him to make a Superman movie specifically for me. And that is one of the things where I'm like, no, yeah, he fights a clone of Superman that's kind of dumb, and all of that stuff. Yeah, it works perfectly for me in that. And there is like the elements of like, Superman is like, well, you guys don't have to fight, I will stop these wars, which is very much like sort of answering the question that Quest for Peace asks, which is like, should Superman even do that?
Hmm.
And this movie is like, he 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 probably shouldn't, but also like he kind of has to. Like, he kind of doesn't have a choice, right? Like, on his personal morals mean that he has to, but Lois is also kind of right. That's the thing that's heartbreaking about that scene, right? Is that the things they're fighting about two different things, and they're both right, but because they have such different perspectives, it's so hard for them to understand one another in that moment. And it's like, that's a real fight. That's a real fight between a couple. This is
Yeah.
not a movie fight, much in the same way that the moments with his parents are real moments. It's like, this is an uncomfortable real fight between a couple that we're observing.
Right.
And he's like, I'm gonna leave, and you always do this. anytime there's conflict, which I love. I love the idea that Lois would like throw that at him of like, anytime there's a conflict, you just leave. He's Superman. His
Yeah.
entire life is running face first into
Into the
conflict.
conflict.
But that's not what she's talking about. She's talking about anytime you're confronted with your humanity in this way, which really only a handful of people can do.
Right.
You're like, what's that? Oh, Jimmy just hit his signal watch. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Which we didn't get the signal watch in this movie, but you got to save something for the sequel.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Or for the Jimmy Olsen series.
or for the Jimmy Olsen series. I man, yeah. Let's just, on that note, let's just really quickly give huge props to Skylar Gisondo for Jimmy Olsen, because this is a character that is hard. This is a difficult character to pull off in a realistic fashion, especially the way that James Gunn presents the character, which is Superman's best pal Jimmy Olsen, like as in the comic book title, Superman's best
Right.
pal Jimmy Olsen. Because I've seen a lot of people go like, "What? So what's the deal? Why do all of the women love him?" And I'm like, because you need to understand that Jimmy had his own comic book series, which was basically Archie, but
Hmm.
he's Superman's best friend. So it's like Jimmy's just trying to get dates with cute girls, and he always is, but then he gets turned into a giant turtle. And
Right.
Superman's got to help him. And that's what Jimmy's comic book was. So in this world, Jimmy has had a whole bunch of misadventures that we just haven't heard about yet.
Right.
Right? Like and I believe that, as much as I believe that like he could have a signal watch. If he pulled out a signal watch at some point in this movie and pushed a button and Superman was like, Jimmy's calling me, I wouldn't have batted an
Yeah.
eye. I would have been like, yeah,
It's
that works. It makes sense
it's
in this.
again, as you say, saving stuff for the sequel, but at the same time I was like, man, I wanted more Planet. Man, I wanted a
Yeah.
Superman and Jimmy
Right.
scene. Man, I wanted a shirt rip. Man, I wanted
It
this or that. And it's not fair to do that because uh I was talking to my buddy Dane Davenport after we saw it the second time I saw it, and he was like, nobody's gonna make the perfect Superman movie
mhm.
for you. Like nobody's gonna check every box that you
Yeah.
need checked. We need to be lucky that we were batting, whatever we were batting for this one. And he's right. It's true. You're not. I'm not going to get everything I
Yeah.
ever wanted out of everything. Hindsight's 2020 on Superman the movie. I do find it a perfect film. Yes, there's stuff that doesn't age great with it. There's
Yeah.
kind of the rapey, Stesswalkers thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
stuff that's just not great under the lens of 2025. But I still feel instantly transported to being a kid watching that movie again. And I hope generations to come with this one feel the
Mhm.
same way that we did about Superman the movie. Um, so yeah, there's that want for, oh, I wish we did have an origin story, or man, I really wish he did wear the suit under his clothes,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that is, Superman to me, and that kind of stuff. And then again, at the end of the day, it's like I get to that. So's Gary, and then the
Yeah.
one other robot plugs the crystal in and starts playing the
Starts
song,
they dance. Yeah.
and as soon as we see the home video footage of the Kents, I'm weeping. I mean, just
Every time. Yeah.
oh, those first two showings, I just had to cover my face, because of I was embarrassed about how there's a healthy amount. I'm fine crying. I don't mind
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
seeing
Yeah.
me cry.
No.
There's healthy crying, and then there's whatever
Yeah.
I was doing, which was
Yeah.
not healthy
It's
at all.
2025, and we are all in agreement that it is perfectly okay to show your emotions and
Yes.
and to be honest and forthright with those things and express yourself in that way. But also yeah, you're right, like you can also get into ugly crying. And
Yeah. There was
I
ugly crying for me at
yeah,
least one or two
it
instances.
well, you talked when I asked you what your favorite scene was, and you started with talking about the opening of the movie, and you were talking about that, and I was just thinking about like, yeah, on first viewing, I like. like literally from, because we'd seen that first little bit of it up until, you know, he gets hit with the sunlight, right?
Right.
That had been released beforehand, so I kind of already had time to digest that and was like, okay, cool, so that's literally where we're starting. Awesome, because then from here on out the rest of this movie is going to be new. And I was like, well, careful what you wish for, because then, you know, as you say, like he steps off and he has the golly, and like the second that he said that word,
Yeah.
it was I wasn't in control anymore.
I think I made
It's
a noise. Like I think I was like,
Yeah, it
I like this.
it started welling up, and then he's like, no can do for it, got to get back to the fray. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
he's like so like gung ho on the fight, and
Yeah.
he's talking the way I want Superman to talk, where he's got bravado, but he's also golly gosh jeepers.
Mhm.
um and then he takes off and he does that barrel roll and he smiles because he's happy that he can fly.
Mhm.
He still loves that he can fly.
Mhm.
You- and it destroyed me, like that he did that role. And I talking to somebody else who was like, oh, it's so silly, like it's like, why would he do that? Doesn't he have to get back fast? And it's like, yeah, but he's Superman, he's gonna get back there real fast, he is gonna get back there
Yeah.
real fast, but he's got time to still enjoy his exit from the fortress and flying through the Antarctic air and all that, like. And then you know, it we get the logo, the emblem into the logo, into the title treatment, and I was just like, I was it was embarrassing, but thankfully it was dark and everybody was focused on the movie at that point.
And then the
So
other
I don't
2
know what
hours
anybody
and 4
noticed.
minutes happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and multiple other points hit me like a Mack truck. Like I it, it's a dog, and he's like, yeah, but he's alone and he's probably scared, and it's like, just, it's like, not even a very good one, right? Like that's the thing that makes that line, that moment so good. And he's like, yeah, he's a dog, but he's not even a very good one. But every living creature deserves the same amount of respect. Like that's
Yeah.
what he's saying in that moment. And it's like, that's, yeah, we saw him save a squirrel earlier, guys. Like that's Superman. That's Superman. And it just, there's so many of those moments that hit me so hard that way. um and again, that's where I'm going, like, I don't care about like your rational thoughts on this movie. I care about like, how did it make you feel? How did it
Absolutely.
make you feel? And in those moments where I it's funny, did you laugh? In the moments where it's you know, heartfelt, did you cry? In the moments where it's exciting, were you on the edge of your seat? Because for me, the answer to that every time is yes.
Well,
um
and I think it says a lot to the cynicism of, oh my god, I just felt my bones ache by the sentence I'm about to say, but the cynicism of younger generations
hmm
of not as much believing in something.
yeah.
Um that last, the 360 shot with the home video footage, I've seen everybody like, well, now who was filming that, because the kids are both in it, and I was like, we don't I don't that's not even on the plate here. Like, why
Yeah,
are we even discussing
yeah,
that?
yeah.
The man just literally almost got sucked into a black hole, super breathed his way out of it, grabbed a flying dog on the way back,
And a
and
squiggly man.
while hold yeah, it's a squiggly man and a crazy baby. I never once questioned
Yeah,
why we're getting 4K good footage of
yeah, Christmas morning.
VHS Christmas morning from
Yeah,
1989, or
yeah.
whatever. That I don't care. And then
No.
the other side of that was also like, oh well, the engineer didn't find that footage in the computer, only
Hmm.
found I'm just not everything has to have a fail safe. Can
Yeah,
we just
yeah,
enjoy this for what
yeah.
it is?
um yeah. I we've been talking about this movie for so long, and we haven't even mentioned Mr. Terrific, and to me that's probably the only mistake we've made on this podcast so far. I think everything else we're 100%, but the fact that this is the first time I'm mentioning Mr. Terrific, I because you want to talk about a character that steals every scene that he's in.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, that was probably, I went into this movie knowing that I was going to like a bunch of the supporting characters because of the
Hmm.
actors that are playing them, and just, you know, knowing James Gunn and knowing like this is going to be an ensemble thing. It'll ultimately focus on Superman, Lois, and Lex, right? But that there will be all of these standout moments, and I fully expected that. I did not expect to walk away from this movie going like, so when are we getting Mr. Terrific standalone?
Right. Right.
Because like
And he is
he
not he I that is a portrayal I did, and no fault to the actor, but that is not something I enjoyed on Arrow.
yes, yeah,
That I and that's strictly from a development standpoint, not a performance standpoint.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just that was not something I really liked, and so to turn around and have him done in live action again very soon, and then to be done so well.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like you. I was like, oh, when are we seeing this guy again? That's one thing with Peacemaker. I've seen the first 5 episodes of season 2 now, and no spoilers, but I'm constantly like, I do feel very much, while it is not Superman, it has felt very much in the same world.
I mean, James Gunn has said that it is basically like I hope you guys like Superman because Peacemaker season 2 is basically a sequel.
It's basically the sequel to that, and I
Yeah,
mean, there's dialogue and stuff said, and I think there's bigger stuff coming in episode 6, 7, 8 because he's
yeah,
not releasing that to critics. So I think that some crazy stuff's going to go down in there, and um but as disconnected as everything felt by the end of the DCEU,
hmm,
when it was just, oh, this character got popular on Twitter for a minute, let's do something with them, you know, and all that jazz that became, you know, "Oh, all right, well, Superman's black and Black Adam now. No, he's not. No, he's not back,"
yeah.
and all those kinds of things. That to have started the premiere of season 2, and it really just felt like it really felt very connected, was a very nice warm feeling.
Hmm.
I know Peacemaker's an inherently dirty show, and dear God, there's a sequence in the first episode alone that rivals anything that happened in season 1. Um, so kids, don't watch it. But you know, to also know that this is kind of happening in the backyard of everything that happened 4 weeks earlier in the events of Superman was a nice feeling, just for knowing what the future can and could hold.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. I have not seen the first episode, 5 episodes of Peacemaker, but I I love season one, and I love James Gunn's Suicide Squad. So I'm so excited for this next season and for everything that I've been hearing about it. And it it actually like it gets me really psyched for a bunch of the other projects that are coming up, like this Clayface movie,
Yeah.
with Mike Flanagan writing it, so you know it's gonna hit a certain tier. And Mike Flanagan is an actor's writer and an actor's director, so I
Uh
don't
huh.
remember who's directing the movie, but if Mike Flanagan wrote it, you know there's a killer monologue in there, you
There
know
was a
there's
time leading up to Gunn taking over where
yeah,
Flanagan was actually my number one choice for directing a Superman movie,
mm,
because I
yes,
just thought what he could bring, innovation wise, to that would be something that hadn't been done before. But obviously
yeah,
that was moot because this same thing happened here with Gunn, just not
yeah.
something I knew I would have wanted at the time.
Yeah, but we got Clayface. Swamp Thing is in the works as well. I along with, now we know, there's going to be another Superman family movie that that Gunn is working on. That'll be essentially a direct sequel to this one. And we've got Supergirl coming next year. Um, but knowing that Peacemaker and Superman are so connected, even though they are so tonally and purposefully different, gets me really excited for the DCU to be antithetical to the MCU, but not in the way that the DCEU was, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
DCEU almost like defined itself in opposition to the MCU. And by doing that, I think that was the biggest mistake, was that they, instead of making stories that served those characters, they kept trying to make movies and stories that they could go, see, this isn't the MCU. And it's like,
Yeah.
nobody's asking you to be the MCU or to not be the MCU. We simply want Superman or the Justice League or what have you. And these stories are, they feel like they are true to these characters. I and being very like sincere in portraying them, while also being allowed to be something that is different from what the MCU is, because the MCU is a very like uniform shared universe. Everything kind of has the same look, the same tone, the same, like they share all of these common threads in order to keep that continuity. And I mean, we all saw Endgame. It worked, right? It was the right call for that you know long game plan that they had.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit choppy the last few years for a bunch of reasons, but um I still think that it can work. Like they can keep working for the MCU. It also works pretty well for Star Wars, right? That's the same thing that they're doing over there, of like, we want everything to kind of generally look the same in live action. Don't go too crazy. Don't go too like off the wall. But then Gunn is going like, well, that's not really how comic books work, though, right? Like, you pick up a different series and it's got
Yeah.
a different writer and a different artist, and so tonally it may be wildly different, right? Like, you pick up Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and it's like, that is a thing, right? And then you pick up, Ed McGuinness drawing Superman, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, this is not the same thing. But it's like, but they are in the same universe, right?
Right. I mean, you
At the
go
end of the
from what
day.
we saw in this movie to what Woman of Tomorrow is
Hmm.
in in print form, at least, and what that is looking to be in film form, and that tonally, that's
Yeah,
quite different.
yeah. I don't know that people are quite ready for how intense that story could potentially be.
Hmm.
We get a little hint of it at the end of this movie, but it's played as a joke, and it's like, oh, it won't be particularly funny,
It's not going to
and
be funny with the time. I mean, I'm sure we'll get some laughs out of it, but it's
yeah,
going to be. I mean, there's some trauma there that
yeah,
that has to be dealt with that
yeah.
version of the character. So
Yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting ride with Supergirl next summer. Um, yeah, man. Okay, so we're approaching 2 hours.
it flew
I
by. No pun intended.
I, we've talked about so much of the movie, and I think that you and I could talk about it for another 2 hours easily. But I think maybe we should cut it off.
So, and
People
that
are,
and then that segue. Now you come on Shoe, and we do the rest of it on there. That's
there
how.
you go.
That's it's a
There you
two
go.
parter.
Is there anything about this movie that we haven't talked about that you need to talk about, that you haven't yet spoken about anywhere else?
I don't think so. I really appreciate it because I did enjoy this conversation, and that's not to say I haven't enjoyed the conversations I've had on my own show, but it was a different conversation. So
Hmm.
I thank you for that, for getting to. Um, I'm not burnt out by any stretch of the imagination. I feel like I should be in some regard, because it's been like, I look back and I'm like, oh my god, it's only been 5 weeks, and it was, I flew cross country multiple times, and did all this stuff just for this movie, and so I should be a little bit tired of talking about it. If you could see the studio right now, the floor is just covered in stuff from this film. To be fair, a lot of it is like Paladone that we've been partnering with, and we're doing this big giveaway here, and I think we're announcing it tomorrow at the time of this recording. And So, but there's popcorn buckets, the stuff that I'm gonna be doing for contests and posters. Like the floor in the studio is nothing but Superman 2025 stuff. So there's an element of I feel like I should be tired of it, and then I talk to you for an hour and 51 minutes now, and I'm like, nope, loving every minute of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, is it too late in the evening for me to now go and watch the movie? I actually, what I will do is I will grab my iPad because I got dishes to do after I've done this recording, and I will just prop it up in front of
There
me
you
while I
go.
do dishes, and I will just enjoy some Superman while I'm doing that. And
It
like, yeah,
soothes you.
absolutely, yes. I I can't think of a better note to end it on. Derek, where can people find you on the internet?
Uh, Try not to as much as humanly possible. No, we are the House of L. You can find us wherever you get your podcast, of course, in this day and age, or via YouTube, or you could go to our website, superhouseofl.com, and listen. We're going to be covering Peacemaker because it is so much tied into this new world now. I feel like we're going to probably be covering everything moving forward, whether it be at Lanterns or Supergirl or what, because everything is finally interconnected in a way that it's never been for this IP before. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find the House of L, or we're on social media at Super House of L on any account you can think of, except maybe MySpace. I don't know. I don't do any of that. I have a lovely assistant named Tim who handles all of that for me. Thank you, Tim.
I Awesome. Well, I mean I can't recommend it enough because the whole reason that I am sitting here podcasting is because I started listening to you guys a million years ago, when we were young, and our bodies responded to our brains commands. I it is a lifetime ago, it feels.
It is.
I
It has been,
I
and I appreciate those kind words. That means a lot to me. It really
Yeah,
does.
I but yeah, I you've been in my ears since I got my first iPod. So I like that's a kids, an iPod is like an iPhone, but it doesn't have a you can't make phone calls on it. It doesn't even have a microphone. It barely has a screen. As a matter of fact, the first one that I had was a Nano. It essentially didn't have a screen. It was very, very small. We were back then, we were really obsessed with our technology getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I know that
Hmm.
now it's like with the things that were small, we want them to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And I have this gigantic iPhone, because I want to watch movies on it sometimes. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna get the biggest one, because I want to be able to see what I'm looking at. So all of that to say, we're old,
Yeah.
but Superman is older. I
Yes.
and I hopefully we're all still around for a long time to come. But specifically this new Superman, who is like significantly younger than us, which is a thing that bugs me
So
about how, like,
weird. It's
when
so
I
weird.
when I see David Cornswet doing press and he makes references to things, and I'm like, oh, you were like a small child for that thing that
Yeah.
I was a teenager for.
Yeah.
Cool, 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 cool. But you're Superman now, so that means I am officially not the target demo. Cool,
You
awesome.
you
Uh,
were in a production of High School Musical. Oh, okay. In high
yeah,
school. Okay.
yeah. But I love him so much. I love him as Superman. I also love David Cornswet. So just
Yes.
go find him on all of the podcasts and stuff that he's done, because he's fantastic.
I have not
Um,
spoken to a single soul that has a bad story to tell about him. I know I'm friends with some people in Philly that are once removed from him there in the theater scene, and or friendly with him, but not not close. But
mhm.
everything I have ever heard about this man is just I can't imagine anybody that was more perfect, better suited for this role than
Yeah,
he, because he just nailed it. He really did.
absolutely. I don't think that we had to fight very hard to make a case for this as a perfect 10. The only thing that would be going against us is recency bias, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think we actually have like quashed that aspect of it, going like No, there's a lot that's legitimately very good about this movie, enough for it to be a perfect 10. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because a perfect 10 is purely subjective, and you can go ahead and disagree. It doesn't need to be a perfect 10 for you. It just needs to be a perfect 10 for the two people talking on the podcast. And it absolutely is. So Derek, thank you for joining me and hanging out and giving me your time to talk about Superman. I know I really had to bend your Elastic Man arm on this one.
Oh yeah,
But
it's yeah. Break
so
break it off. Why don't you? Yeah, to
so
get me
difficult
here.
to convince you to do this, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that I did. Thank you guys for listening to Thunderquack Perfect 10. You can join the conversation on our Discord server over at thunderquack.com/Discord. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast service, leaving a rating and review, and of course, share it with a friend. You got somebody who, listen, this is an episode, share it with two people. You got a friend who loves Superman more than anything and is so annoyed by everybody who just doesn't get it, right? But then you've also got a friend who just doesn't get Superman, and you really wish that they understood Superman a little bit more, and they have complained about this movie. Send this podcast to both of them, and don't tell them which one they are out of that group. Let them figure it out for themselves. But send it to both of those people, because I think both of those people need to listen to this episode. But until next time, remember, it's not about the score, it's about the love. Stay frosty. Thunderquack Perfect 10 is hosted by me, Michael Cohen. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at TQPerfect10 and join the community at thunderquack.com/Discord. This podcast is supported by listeners just like you over at patreon.com/Thunderquack. Head over there to get early access to episodes, exclusive podcasts, and more. This show is a part of the Thunderquack Podcast Network. Head over to thunderquack.com for more great shows. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.